September 1945, Yokosuka, Japan. Takeshi Yamamoto is 17 years old, standing in an American occupation headquarters, and everyone in this room knows his name. His grandfather, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. Now the Americans have won, and they are asking Takeshi to translate, "Tell them we are here to help rebuild their country," Colonel Morrison says. Takeshi stares at the Japanese civilians crowded into the room. Fishermen, mothers, shopkeepers who watched American B-29s burn their cities to ash. They will not look at him. In Japan, everyone knows the name Yamamoto. They know shame when they see it. His hands are shaking. The English words are there he has been studying since he was 12, secretly, in defiance of his father's wishes. But his throat closes because what he is about to say sounds impossible. Rebuild their country? After firebombing 67 cities? After 2 atomic bombs? After 3 million Japanese dead? The colonel waits. Patient. His hand rests on the desk. Between them, no weapon, no threat, just waiting. There is a wedding ring. A small scar across his knuckles. Takeshi thinks about the propaganda posters from his childhood. Americans with demon faces, eating Japanese children, burning temples, beasts in human skin. He thinks about what his father said 3 days ago before drinking himself unconscious. Your grandfather's legacy is your burden now. We are the family of murderers. The colonel's hand is sunburned and human. Son? Morrison says quietly. Are you all right? Why would a beast call him son? Takeshi translates. His voice cracks on the first word. The civilians stare at him, some with recognition, some with disgust. One woman spits at his feet, but he finishes the sentence, all of it. We are here to help rebuild your country. He does not know yet that he will spend the next 60 years proving those words were not a lie. 6 months earlier, Takeshi Yamamoto was not thinking about Americans, he was thinking about survival. February 1945, the family compound in Yokosuka is smaller now. They sold the West Wing after father stopped going to his office. The garden where grandfather used to teach Takeshi to identify clouds is overgrown. No one has the heart to maintain it. Takeshi does not remember Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto well. He died in 1943, shot down over Bougainville when Takeshi was 15. What Takeshi remembers is the silence that followed. How father stopped speaking at dinner. How neighbors stopped visiting, as if the family carried a disease. The architect of Pearl Harbor. That is what the newspapers called him. They did not say it with pride after Midway. March 1945. Takeshi's teacher shows them a new poster. It depicts American soldiers with grotesque features, tusks, claws, eyes like predators. The caption reads, "The American beast knows only destruction. Fight until death rather than suffer their torture. They will violate your mothers and sisters, Mr. Nakamura says, calm as if discussing mathematics. They will burn our temples and erase our culture. This is documented fact from China, from the Philippines." Takeshi writes it down. Next to it, secretly, he practices English vocabulary from the textbook hidden under his mattress. Mercy, kindness, democracy. He is not sure why he is learning English. Maybe because it is the one thing he can do that grandfather never did. The admiral refused to learn the enemy's language, said it would corrupt his thinking. But Takeshi saw where that led the B-29s overhead, the fire that ate Tokyo in a single night. The air raids become routine. B-29s overhead, their engines a steady drone. That means death is falling. Takeshi volunteers at the makeshift hospital, carrying supplies, cleaning wounds. The wounded soldiers tell him stories. They all say the same thing about Americans. They do not take prisoners. They kill the wounded. They are demons in human form. One soldier, both legs gone below the knee, grabs Takeshi's wrist with surprising strength. "Promise me, if they invade, do not let them take you alive. Do you understand?" Takeshi promises. He does not know yet that he is promising a lie. July brings Takeshi's 17th birthday. No celebration, barely food. The wounded soldiers keep arriving, and their stories get worse. Tales from Saipan, from Okinawa. Mass suicides rather than surrender. The Americans, they say, raped and murdered everyone they captured. Takeshi does not know what to believe anymore, but at night, alone in the shelter during raids, he thinks about drowning versus hanging, which would be faster. His father drinks more, mutters about execution. When they invade, they will line up everyone named Yamamoto and put bullets in our heads. It is what your grandfather deserves. August 6th. Something happens to Hiroshima. The radio does not explain clearly. Rumors of a single bomb, the entire city gone. Takeshi does not believe it. August 9th. It happens again. Nagasaki. August 15th. The Emperor's voice on the radio, tinny, distant, divine, tells them it is over. They have lost. They must endure the unendurable and suffer what is insufferable. Father finishes a bottle of sake. They will come for us within a week. We should die before they arrive. Mother has not spoken in days. She sits by the window, staring at nothing. Takeshi thinks about the propaganda posters, the soldiers' warnings. He thinks about whether drowning or hanging would be faster. But the Americans do not come in a week. They come in 3 weeks. And when they come, they do not come with bayonets. The first American Takeshi sees is a military policeman directing traffic at the intersection near the harbor, September 2nd. The man is tall. Most Americans seem tall to Takeshi with red hair and freckles. He is organizing supply trucks with casual efficiency. Takeshi expects violence, he expects cruelty, he expects the face from the propaganda posters. Instead, the MP sees an elderly Japanese woman trying to cross the street with a heavy basket, and he stops traffic. He helps her cross. He carries her basket to the other side. Trick, Takeshi thinks. They want us complacent before they show their true nature. But days pass, then weeks. The Americans distribute food, rice, canned goods, powdered milk. They bring doctors. They do not round people up. They do not execute anyone. They do not come for the Yamamoto family. September 15th. There is a knock on the door. An American captain with a Japanese interpreter. We are looking for English speakers. We need help communicating with civilians. Fair wages, food rations. I speak English, Takeshi says, the words tumbling out before he can stop them. His father, behind him, makes a sound like something wounded. The captain switches to English. How well? I study 4 years. I read books. I practice every day. Your accent is pretty good. Come by tomorrow morning. Yokosuka Administration Building. Ask for Colonel Morrison. After they leave, Takeshi's father slaps him. Not hard, he is too drunk, too weak. But the intention lands. Traitor, father says. Your grandfather would be ashamed. But Takeshi does not feel like a traitor. He feels like maybe, finally, he can do something other than wait to die. The Yokosuka Administration Building used to be the Naval District Headquarters, the same building where grandfather once worked. Now there are American flags and American soldiers transforming chaos into order. Colonel Morrison is 40-something, with gray starting at his temples and eyes that look tired but not cruel. He gives Takeshi a language test, reading comprehension, verbal response, translation. Takeshi passes easily. You are young. How old? 17, sir. You are hired. You will translate for civilian administration, food distribution, housing, medical intake, nothing military. You understand? Yes, sir. Morrison's expression softens. I know this is hard. Working with us, some neighbors will not understand. But what we are doing here is important. We are trying to help Japan rebuild. That is not propaganda. That is orders from General MacArthur himself. Takeshi does not know if he believes this, but he nods. The work starts immediately. That first day, he translates for food distribution lines, explaining the ration system, helping elderly people fill out forms, telling children the powdered milk is safe. The Americans are patient. They smile at children and give them chocolate. Still a trick. Part of Takeshi's mind insists. They are trying to lower our defenses. But the trick does not end. Days become weeks. Then he meets Sergeant Davis from Mississippi, 24 years old, with a drawl Takeshi can barely understand. They work together for 3 days before a Japanese woman mentions Takeshi's full name and Davis catches it. Later, Davis asks quietly, "Yamamoto? Like Admiral Yamamoto? The Pearl Harbor guy?" Takeshi's blood goes cold. This is it. This is when the kindness ends. "Yes," he says, voice barely a whisper. "My grandfather." He expects disgust, anger, maybe violence. Davis is quiet for a long moment. Then, "That must be real hard for you, carrying that." Takeshi does not understand. You are not angry? At you? Kid, you were, 13 when Pearl Harbor happened? Yes, 13. So tell me what part of Pearl Harbor you planned, which ships you decided to bomb. I did not. Exactly. You did not do anything. Your grandfather made choices. You did not. You are just a kid trying to survive. Davis pauses. "My own daddy fought at Guadalcanal. Lost a lot of friends there, so I have reasons to be angry at Japan. But I am not angry at you. You were not there. You did not pull a trigger." Something cracks inside Takeshi's chest. The soldier made him promise not to be taken alive. He broke that promise, and it saved his life. Why are they doing this? The breaking point comes 3 weeks into the job, October now. Takeshi is translating for a housing assignment meeting when Mrs. Tanaka arrives, a neighbor from 3 houses down. She recognizes him immediately. Her face hardens. "Yamamoto," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "The grandson of the murderer, working for the Americans. Have you no shame?" The room goes silent. Morrison does not speak Japanese, does not understand. He looks at Takeshi, waiting for translation. Takeshi's hands shake. She says her family needs housing. 3 people. They lost their home in Tokyo. Morrison nods. "Tell her we will have something by next week." Takeshi translates. Mrs. Tanaka stares at him with hatred. "Your grandfather killed my brother at Midway," she says, "and now you serve his enemies. You disgrace his memory. You disgrace all of us." "He disgraced himself," Takeshi says, the words escaping before he can stop them, in Japanese, so Morrison cannot hear. His voice shakes but grows stronger. "My grandfather started a war we could not win. He killed thousands of Americans and millions of Japanese. He made our name poison." Mrs. Tanaka's mouth opens in shock. "And these Americans?" Takeshi gestures at Morrison at Davis by the door. "They feed us. They give us medicine. They treat us like human beings. What did our own leaders do? They told us to fight until extinction. They told mothers to throw their children off cliffs rather than surrender." His voice breaks, but he keeps going. "These Americans ended the war. They saved us from ourselves. So no, Mrs. Tanaka, I have no shame. The only shame I carry is that it took defeat to teach us how to be human again." Silence. Mrs. Tanaka looks slapped. Then someone claps. Slowly. An old man in the back. "The boy speaks truth. I fought in China. I saw what we did there, what we became. Maybe it takes an enemy to show us how to be human again." Another person claps, then another. Not everyone. Mrs. Tanaka walks out, and several follow. But enough stay. They take their housing assignments. They do not thank Takeshi, but they do not spit at him either. That night, Morrison asks Takeshi to stay late. Just the 2 of them and the hum of fluorescent lights. "Something happened today. I could not understand the words, but I understood the tone. Someone gave you trouble because of your grandfather?" Takeshi nods. Morrison is quiet. Then, "My father was a drunk, beat my mother, beat me and my brothers. When I was 15, I left home and never went back." He looks at Takeshi. "People said I was a bad son, that I abandoned my family, that I dishonored my father." Takeshi waits. "But here is what I learned. You do not owe loyalty to people who hurt you. You do not owe loyalty to bad choices made before you were born. You owe loyalty to your own conscience, to doing what is right, even when it is hard. In Japan, we believe family honor is everything. Grandfather's shame is my shame. And what do you believe?" Takeshi thinks about the propaganda posters, the father who wanted him to die rather than surrender. He thinks about Davis asking what part of Pearl Harbor he planned, about Morrison helping Mrs. Tanaka even after she called Takeshi a traitor. I believe that maybe we were wrong. About Americans. About honor. About many things. Morrison nods. That is a start. November now. The work becomes routine, but the routine itself is revolutionary. Every day, Takeshi translates between worlds, between Japanese, who expect cruelty, and Americans who refuse to provide it. One afternoon, Takeshi overhears two American officers talking. They do not realize he understands rapid English. Still cannot believe we are rebuilding them, one says, after what they did at Bataan, at Pearl Harbor. MacArthur is right, though, the other replies. If we treat them like animals, we will get another war in 20 years. If we treat them like human beings, maybe we get a real peace. Your brother died at Iwo Jima. Yeah, he did. The sergeant's voice goes quiet. And I will never forget that. But that kid over there, he gestures toward Takeshi, he did not kill my brother. He was probably in school while my brother was dying. So what do? Hate him for a war he did not start? Or help him build a country that will not start the next one? Takeshi pretends he did not hear. But that night, he cannot sleep. How did they fight us hard enough to win, but stop hating us fast enough to help? February 1946. Takeshi's father dies. Not dramatically, he simply does not wake up one morning. Heart failure, the doctor says. But Takeshi knows it was shame that stopped his heart. The funeral is small. Morrison comes uninvited, in civilian clothes, stands in the back. Afterward, he approaches Takeshi. I am sorry for your loss, son. Thank you, sir. He was a complicated man, I think. Takeshi almost laughs. Complicated. Yes, good word. My father died when I was overseas. Never got to say goodbye. Never got to tell him I forgave him. Morrison pauses. What do you want, Takeshi? Takeshi looks at his mother, silent by the grave. He thinks about grandfather shot down over Bougainville. Father dead from shame. The Yamamoto legacy, ashes and silence. I want to build something. Something that is not destruction, not war, not shame. Morrison nods. Then that is what we will help you do. March 1946. Takeshi applies to the new education program training Japanese students in English, democratic principles, Western philosophy. It is controversial, but Takeshi sees it differently. He begins intensive study, American history, political philosophy, constitutional law. He reads the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence, Lincoln's speeches. He reads about democracy and individual rights. He thinks about what Japan could become if these ideas took root. One of the other students is Kenji, 23, who studied at Waseda before the war. They practice English together, debate ideas. Kenji is more cynical. They are only nice because they won, Kenji says one afternoon. If we had won, would we be this generous? Takeshi thinks about Nanking, about the Philippines, about Korea. They both know the answer. Maybe, Takeshi says slowly, that is exactly why we lost. Because we never learned this. Davis is shipping home in April. They spend an afternoon in the market picking gifts for his family. Are you going to stay with the occupation? Davis asks. Yes, I want to help rebuild, not just buildings, ideas, understanding. That is good. That is real good. Davis pauses. When I first came here, I hated every Japanese person I saw. My daddy's letters were full of rage. I came expecting monsters. And now? Now I have met people. You, Mrs. Tanaka even. Just people trying to survive. Same as us. He shakes his head. War makes us forget that. But living here, working with translators, it reminds me. You are human. We are human. Maybe that is the most important thing we can remember. When Davis leaves, he shakes Takeshi's hand, then pulls him into a hug. You are going to do great things, kid. Takeshi does not cry until Davis is gone. May 1946. Morrison calls Takeshi into his office. He is rotating back to the United States in June. I am recommending you for the liaison program, a scholarship full funding to study in America, University of California, maybe. You would be part of the first generation of Japanese students returning to American schools after the war. Takeshi, can barely breathe. America, you have got the language skills, the work ethic, and something else you understand both sides. You can build bridges. That is what the world needs now. Not more soldiers, more bridge builders. Why? Why do this for me? My grandfather killed thousands of your people. Morrison looks at him steadily. Because you are not your grandfather. You are Takeshi Yamamoto, and you are a good kid with a sharp mind and a decent heart. That is all that matters. Later, Takeshi realizes this is the moment. The transformation completes. He is not the grandson of Admiral Yamamoto anymore. He is Takeshi. Just Takeshi. And that is enough. The scholarship comes through in August. He will leave for America in September 1946, exactly 1 year after he first stood in the administration building, hands trembling, translating words he did not believe. His mother comes to see him off. She has started speaking again, slowly rebuilding. She gives him grandfather's pilot wings, the only memento she kept. He would be ashamed of me, Takeshi says. Perhaps. Or perhaps he would understand. He studied in America too, before the war, at Harvard. He knew Americans, respected them. Then politics turned respect into hatred. She touches his face. Maybe you can turn hatred back into respect. Complete the circle. 29 years pass. October 1975. Takeshi Yamamoto is 47 years old, standing in Yokosuka at a memorial dedication. Not a memorial to war dead, but to the occupation recognizing Americans who helped rebuild Japan, who chose reconstruction over revenge. He returned to Japan with a doctorate in international relations. His dissertation on occupation policy became required reading at universities. He teaches at Waseda now, training a new generation in democracy, international cooperation, building peace through understanding. In 1960, he testified before the Diet when politicians wanted to frame the occupation as humiliation. Takeshi argued differently. They could have destroyed us. After Pearl Harbor, after Bataan, after all the atrocities we committed across Asia, they had every justification. But they did not. They fed us, rebuilt our schools, helped us write a constitution that forbids the militarism that led us to ruin. Was it perfect? No. But it was also mercy. And mercy from a victorious enemy is the rarest thing in human history. The testimony was controversial. Some called him a traitor still, but others, younger Japanese, those building the new Japan, listened. They understood. Today, Morrison is here, 70 now, retired, living in Oregon. They have not seen each other in 15 years. When Morrison sees Takeshi, he smiles. You did it. The bridge building. You actually did it. We did it, Takeshi corrects. You started it in that administration building. The same colonel who first called me son and meant it. They stand together as the memorial is unveiled. The inscription reads in Japanese and English, "Former enemies, future friends. May we remember both the cost of war and the grace of peace." Takeshi thinks about the propaganda posters with their demon faces, the soldiers who told him to die rather than surrender, father drinking himself toward death, all the lies they believed about Americans, and all the lies Americans believed about Japanese. And he thinks about Davis, brave enough to see humanity in enemies. Morrison, patient and kind. The sergeant who lost a brother at Iwo Jima, but chose to help rebuild instead of hate. Do you ever think about how close we came to something different, Takeshi asks, if your leaders had wanted revenge instead of reconstruction? Every day, Morrison says, every single day. It was a choice, a deliberate choice, and it was the right one. The ceremony ends. Families gather, Japanese and American, some mixed now. Takeshi's own children are here, born to a wife who never knew the war. His daughter married a Japanese-American man whose father served in the 442nd. Their children, Takeshi's grandchildren, play in the memorial garden, laughing in Japanese and English mixed together. Takeshi watches them run past the inscription. These children will never know the weight of shame he carried at 17. The name Yamamoto does not mean catastrophe to them, it just means family. Morrison follows his gaze. Your grandfather planned Pearl Harbor. You built bridges across the Pacific. That is legacy enough, do you not think? Takeshi remembers standing in the administration building, handshaking, translating words he did not believe. We are here to help rebuild your country. He spent 60 years proving those words were truth. Yes, Takeshi says. That is legacy enough. One of his grandchildren, a little girl named Yuki, runs up to him breathless. Grandpa, is it true you worked with American soldiers? When you were young? Yes, sweetheart, I did. Were you scared? Takeshi kneels down. Very scared. I thought they would be monsters. But they were not. They were just people, like us. And they taught me something important. What? That enemies do not have to stay enemies forever. That people who fight each other can learn to help each other. That the future does not have to look like the past. Yuki considers this with childhood gravity. That is good. I am glad they were not monsters. Me too, sweetheart, me too. She runs off to play, and Morrison claps Takeshi on the shoulder, the same gesture from 30 years ago when Takeshi was just a scared kid who spoke some English. You did good, son. Why would a beast call him son? Takeshi understands now. Because beasts do not rebuild cities. Beasts do not distribute food to starving enemies. Beasts do not offer scholarships to the grandsons of the men who attacked them. Only human beings do that. Only human beings choose mercy when they could choose vengeance. Only human beings see the person, not just the uniform, the individual, not just the enemy nation. And sometimes, that is the hardest lesson enemies have to teach each other. The sun sets over Yokosuka Harbor, painting the water gold and red. American and Japanese flags fly side by side over the memorial. Children play in two languages, their laughter echoing across the garden. Former enemies stand together, old men now, remembering when they were young and the world was ending. And somehow, impossibly, they chose to build instead of destroy. Takeshi takes a deep breath. The air smells like salt and flowers, like memory and hope mixed together. He thinks about that first day, September 1945, when he stood trembling in the administration building. When Morrison called him son and he did not understand why. He understands now. It was not about forgetting the past. It was about not letting the past poison the future. About seeing the person standing in front of you, not the shadow of his grandfather. About choosing what you build over what you inherited. He was 17 when he learned that enemies could be human. That lesson took a lifetime to understand, to internalize, to teach. But it was worth it. Every moment was worth it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed revisiting this moment in history. Stay tuned for more forgotten events and hidden tales.